Well, hello everyone. Um, it's been quite an interesting 3 weeks. I'm going to try and walk through some of the strategy that I have going forward for the rest of the class and give you a little bit of an update on my plan moving forward. Basically, we're going to have video lectures, and I'll be recording them and posting them to YouTube. They'll be publicly available. You should be able to access them on any device. And I believe you'll be able to do automatic closed captioning. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be better than not having a transcript at all. And I think the accessibility features there will make it a little bit easier for anyone who may need them, as compared to something like Blackboard Collaborate. I've seen horror stories on Twitter and heard things on internal mailing lists that there have been problems with that, and I'm not interested in doing that. I think YouTube is a more reliable technology that will almost certainly work better moving forward. So we'll stick with that. I also wanted to address a couple of questions that I've had about the post that I made, sort of outlining what we're doing going forward. First, yes, I will be putting all of the slides online as normal. I'll try and get them online as soon as possible. Second, quizzes moving forward. There will not be weekly quizzes moving forward. I will be posting an archive of quizzes from past semesters, and you should be able to go through those in preparation for the final exam, which we will have a final exam. Part of the reason I'm not going to do quizzes moving forward is the intention behind the quizzes is to prepare you for the exams. And now that the final exam is going to have a radically different format, I don't know that the quizzes actually do that. I want you to be able to study the material, and I want you to be able to learn the material, but the main reason that I have the quiz is not so much that you learn the materials, it's more that you see an example of the kinds of questions you'll be asked, because exams are kind of artificial. No one has an exam in industry. It's not really a thing that you would do. You run into problems, and I try to make as much of the problems that I can, I try to make the problems as real world as I possibly can, but that's not realistically going to happen in an exam format, because the real world doesn't exactly come in the format of an exam. So, long way of saying I'm not going to be doing quizzes moving forward. I just don't think it's appropriate at this point. So what do we do with the quiz grade? Everyone gets a perfect quiz grade. I'm not going to eliminate it and then just prorate everything else as I did with the midterm. The quiz grades have always been in this class perfect over the course of the history of the class. It's basically free points. The whole point of the structure of how I do the grading for the quizzes is so that it doesn't hurt your grade, that it only prepares you for the exam. So I'm just automatically giving everyone perfect grade for that section of the class grading scale, whatever it may be. Okay, so if you missed a quiz, don't worry about it. If you had some kind of other concern with the quizzes, don't worry about that. I will try and get the archive up as soon as possible. If you have questions about anything in there, please don't hesitate to ask. It's certainly recommended to go through that material. It is a good way to learn. Going through the material and seeing previous questions that have been assigned as quiz material, I don't think is bad. It's not going to hurt. It's just not going to prepare you for the exam as it was. And in response to what is the final exam going to look like, I have no idea. The format that I typically use is not going to work, and so I have to kind of reinvent the whole thing from scratch. I really don't know what it will look like. Okay, so yes, class time from 4:30 to 7:30. Pardon me, 4:30 to 7 p.m. I will be on a Google Meet channel, which I'll post to Blackboard beforehand so that you can log in and chat if you have questions. Specifically about the project. We are still going to do both the project deliverables. The first deliverable draft will be due April 8th now, so I'm pushing that back to April 8th. And then the actual submission deadline will be April 15th. For the second project, I'll probably be posting a video walking through the introduction of that early next week. I don't typically overlap them all that much, but these are unusual circumstances, and it's worth posting it early just to make sure that everyone's going to have time to prepare for that sort of thing. So I think those are all of the big questions. Let me see. Let me bring up the... Yes. So we are actually going to end up probably wrapping up lecture material a little bit early this semester. We've got a lecture coming up today on user interfaces, and then next week on program design. The week after that, the week of April 16th, I think, is our the Thursday that we would normally have had class is data storage and databases. Then on the 23rd, implementation and testing. That wraps up the entire content of the textbook. And then I usually give 2 separate lectures in addition to that on agile software development and then on security and privacy. We are going to still do all of those lectures. They'll all happen kind of in the same span, but I'll be trying to get the recordings up as soon as possible. I may end up slightly ahead of our schedule if I am able to do the recordings as quickly as I hope. That said, the first few recordings are going to be rough. And if you have comments, feedback, suggestions, I am more than open to changing the format, changing how I do that sort of stuff in the future, because it is new to me, and as I said, it's probably going to be a little bit challenging early on. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up some of the grading related stuff, all the group stuff doesn't change. You still have 15% for both the problem analysis and requirements document in the grading scale, 10% for peer evaluation. We will still be doing all of those things. The individual portion, though, is very different. So the midterm is gone and everything else is prorated. The weekly quizzes, everyone has a perfect score. Now class participation, which is 10% of the grade, that's going to be a little bit different than what we had originally discussed, the sort of in-class actual participation. I'm opening up discussion boards on Blackboard, and I want you to be discussing both the lectures and any questions you may have about the general content of the course there. I'm expecting everyone to have roughly 1 post or reply per week. So this should be actually something you try and do on a weekly basis in order to participate in the class. I know this is not actually the same thing as being able to ask a question, and the sorts of responses that you would get in a class discussion are going to be different, but it is the best that we can do, and it is really critical that you have weekly engagement with this material. Especially given that we can't really do the quizzes the way that I want. And then, of course, the final exam. It's still a quarter of your grade, and it's still going to be a really important part of the class. I just can't give you any more information about it at this time as to what the format will look like. Okay, if you have any other questions, please contact me. Post something on the discussion board. It's actually easier for me to answer those, or I'll be available on the Google Meet starting today at 4:30. I don't know if that's going to work out for everyone, so if you don't like that approach, please let me know about that as well. I'm happy to adapt. I mean, the number one thing that I'm interested in doing here is being able to adapt. It's probably the most important thing that we can do at this point, because very little is really assured as to how this is going to go. All right, so that's everything I've got in this quick update. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe I'll do something like this in the future with a visual, but most of the lectures are actually just going to be me talking into the slides. So you won't actually see my great American basement here, which is just a giant collection of random boxes I haven't unpacked in forever. So, all right, hope you're all doing well, stay safe, and I'll see you in the lectures.